I was in the middle of shooting another show, and I came in for 2 days and shot the end of season 6, and then I had to go back for another 4 months and finish the show I was on. So I was in New York City on a set the whole time. So believe it or not, I didn't have a ton of issues getting bothered, although I was one of the few people that was allowed to do press or was told to do press, because everyone else, you didn't know if they were going to be, you didn't know who was going to be alive and who was going to be dead. And I honestly didn't know who was going to die. That first introduction to Negan, I didn't ask, and no one told me who I was going to be hitting with the baseball bat, so I didn't know. So it was probably okay for me to do press because everything was the same. I don't know. But everybody has, sure.
What about you?
Yeah, I was the opposite. I was told not to do any press, and I did know. and also I was doing a motorcycle show. I have another show called Boom on AMC, and I was busy riding motorcycles with people all over the world, and then you know, as far as press goes, I wasn't allowed to, but I've kind of been in the game a minute. I know how to say a bunch of words and mean nothing, which is kind of what I'm doing right now. But yeah, I mean, and Steven's an old friend of mine, as is Michael, and I knew when they knew. So I knew for a long time before we actually shot it that it was coming, and it was in the graphic novel as well.
Yeah.
I hope he stays around. I don't want him to. I like having that balance, and I like having Jeffrey around. And I don't know. I like that you need that. I mean, I like how it used to be just zombies we were running from, and now there's another element on there. Hopefully he doesn't go anywhere.
I mean, I suppose everybody has a reason to kill me. You know, I think Andy would be the first in line. I did some probably horrible things to Norman's character, Daryl, and I think Maggie has a pretty strong reason to take a shot at me.
Pretty much everybody.
Yeah, I mean,
pretty much everybody.
But I think Andy would fight for it. He would fight for it to be the guy to take Negan out. And I've spent a lot of time poking and prodding Rick Grimes, so. That would seem to make the most sense right now. But who knows? Maybe they'll put me on my knees and they'll all have a baseball bat in their hands and take their own respective shot at me. You know, who knows? You know, who knows? If we look at the graphic novel, Negan's going to be around for a long time. He's still alive in the graphic novel, and so that would put me in the show if we followed that for another 4 or 5 years, 6 years, as long as the show goes. Negan's still alive in that world. But that being said, the show's different. I could die next week. No one will tell me until that script comes out, or I get a call from Scott Gimple saying, this is it. And that can happen to anyone on the show. No one knows. He's not gay.
Yeah, you know, it's funny when you say something in the press and it's spun into something else. The gay rumors happened because Kirkman joked about it once, and then that went whoo, and then, you know, and everything seems to be a headline. But as far as romance, you know, he already has a relationship with Carol, if that's who you're speaking about. You know, never say never. I don't know, to be honest. Yeah, people want death and they want sex.
Yeah.
And sexy death.
Sexy death.
But
death while sex.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's how I'd want to go.
You sick bastard.
Die while having sex? Well, that's a good way to go.
But then she never ever like.
That's true. Then she's fucked up for yeah. That's true.
Forever, she looks at you. And look at Alex. No, stop.
I suppose she'd be messed up.
She's
forever.
Like, cut the conversation. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. I mean, they definitely have a relationship that's very strong. So it's possible that it'll go into that direction. But then again, they don't tell me. I'm not really invited in those rooms where they're coming up with those.
We all love that relationship. We all love Daryl and Carol. But it's funny how, you know, some scenes when you guys do together, it's like brother sister. Some it's you reverse roles and one is the parent and one isn't.
Yeah.
And some there's like this, like a sexual undertone to it in this attraction. I think that's the interesting thing about it.
It's become such a thing that
it's such a thing.
If it happens, people will freak out.
Yeah.
If it doesn't happen, people will, it's become already such a larger than life situation that I'm afraid to approach the situation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But we all love it. I mean, even just as a fan of the show before I was even on it, I loved watching the two of them on screen. And when they were together in last week's episode, for when they first are reunited, I mean, that's just, they work so well together. Yeah. Who doesn't want to watch that? And no matter what happens between the two of them, just the two of them together is a special.
I get very excited whenever I have a scene with Melissa. I'm very fortunate just to be on screen with her.
You can tell. I think you both get excited.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think in that kind of a world, a lot of good people do bad things, and it doesn't necessarily make anybody bad people, but you end up changing what you would normally do just to survive. I think a lot of action and reaction is fear-based, and especially in a world that's full of fear. I mean, you know, we killed more people of his than he's killed of ours, and we've seen Rick bite people's throats out. We right off the very first episode, we see him shoot a little girl, and he feels bad about it, and you know, it's that's sort of the balance that we all play with on this show all the time. You know, that's Carol's whole storyline right now. You know, it's Father Gabriel's storyline. It's Morgan's storyline. You know,
I think it's been everybody's storyline at some point.
Not mine. I killed my
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But you've gone kind of the opposite. You've gone from like kind of a questionable fella to turning into a leader of these guys, and an emotional leader at that has shown a lot of love to all these people that when we first saw him, he didn't trust them, nor did he probably like them very much. So that's been kind of cool.
I've had
you
the
know?
opposite storyline.
It's great. That is neat.
It's different locations. It's all in the same state, and but we have different locations within southern Georgia that we film in, and a lot of the walkers are repeat because they're just so good at it. But the makeup's so good, you can't tell. So people will come up to us and be like, "Oh, you stabbed me in the face
9 times,
or you caught me on fire in March." Like, but it's the some of them are the same, because they're really good at it.
There's probably a handful, like 10, 15 guys that are really good, and they are different zombies every year. They know how to die very well, and Greg Nicotero is one of them. He'll do makeup on himself and be a zombie. But yeah, one of my first days on set with a bunch of walkers, and I remember one came up to me and was like, it was like bragging rights, you know. Do you know Daryl's killed me 10 times in this show, and Andy's killed me 9 times. You know, it's pretty, I think they have it's a point of pride for these guys, how many times they've been killed by one of y'all, and
Greg was the first zombie I ever killed, actually.
No.